Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something pretty profound, Caph's doctrine. It's presented, not just as a teaching, but more like a guide and fellow traveler. Feels like an adventure, really, into something much desired, a kind of modern self-discovery, but with these deep roots in older wisdom. It frames spirituality as this unfolding process.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is how Cafh views our mystical vocation.
Hmm.
It's described as this almost unstoppable impulse towards the unknown, a kind of inherent path of unfolding.
An impulse. Okay.
Right. The core idea is that this call to the divine, it lives right inside our spiritual essence, a divine that's, well, incomprehensible to the human mind right now. There's actually a really powerful line from one of their messages. In this mystery that I am is the great constant of the unknown. The unknown always present in my life is God himself.
Wow. Okay, so it's less about finding God out there and more about recognizing the divine within the mystery of, well, ourselves. Okay, let's unpack this a bit then. If the main job, let's say, is to spiritually unfold, to unlock our potential, how do we actually do that? How do we
Yeah.
travel this path? Sounds like you'd need some guidance, right? But maybe it's also very personal.
Exactly. And the doctrine does provide essential rules, signage, and guidance. But crucially, it isn't rigid. At its core is this principle of freedom and responsibility.
Yeah.
They really go hand in hand.
Freedom and responsibility.
Yeah. You choose your path, your pace, but with full awareness, and the accountability that follows. This idea of responsible freedom that they
Yeah.
say expands your vision of yourself within the whole universe. You're making these conscious choices.
Right, so it's not just do whatever you feel like, it's freedom with the weight of consequence for your spiritual choices.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The path is often called the path of renunciation. That sounds, well, it sounds intense. Why renunciation? What does that actually mean here? Is it about, like, giving everything up?
It does sound intense, but maybe not in the way we first assume. Renunciation here is more about leaving behind the baggage that weighs us down. It's framed as an asceticism that frees us. Importantly, it expands the heart because we do it out of love.
Okay, baggage,
Yeah.
like emotional baggage.
It's less about external things necessarily and more about shedding those internal attachments.
Mhm.
You know, fears, needing approval, rigid ideas we hold on to. It's like an inner decluttering, as you said earlier, almost for the soul, done out of love to lighten the load so we can actually move forward spiritually. And this process, they say, allows you to touch our inner essence and connect to this mystical current running through all spiritual paths. An inner decluttering. I like that. So ditching the lead weights, not just packing light. And you mentioned it connects to a mystical current and something about a universal religion. How does that fit in?
Yes. So Cafh sees itself as contributing to the emergence of the universal religion. And this is important, it's not about blending existing religions into one mush. It's described as a new way of understanding spirituality, lived originally and uniquely by the being itself.
So a universal experience maybe rather than a universal dogma.
Precisely. It points towards unity found in that direct, lived, authentic spiritual experience within each person, which can transcend specific doctrines. As one quote puts it, mysticism is the way of living, manifesting and understanding the experience of God. It's about the living of it.
Okay, that makes more sense. So thinking about the listener, what does this all mean for you in practice? How does this doctrine show up day to day?
Well, it really emphasizes direct experience. The doctrine respects inner freedom, aiming for a direct relationship with the divine without intermediaries. It's described as flexible and up-to-date, filled with experience and adaptable. It's not a one-size-fits-all system. And it's universal and inclusive. It recognizes the value in all spiritual paths.
And it's non-dogmatic, encouraging reflective thought. How does that work? Providing guidance without being rigid.
That's really the key tension, isn't it? It offers principles, structure, but the understanding has to come from your own experience and reflection, not just accepting something you're told. That's why it uses simple and understandable language. The goal is to unite theory and practice, have it be intertwined, something you apply to daily life. It's meant to be lived.
Mm-hmm. And it seems very deliberate that it avoids controversies or just personal opinions. The focus is on stimulating the mind and feeling to give and to love.
Exactly. That inward focus on love and practical application, that's why the central goal remains the spiritual unfolding of each person, aware of his presence in humanity and in the universe. It's personal growth, yes, but always within that bigger context, that interconnected reality.
A powerful vision indeed. So as you listening reflect on this, maybe consider What baggage in your own life, fears maybe, or external pressures, old habits might be holding you back? What might happen if you consciously relinquish some of that? Could it open up a path to deeper self-awareness, maybe a connection to something larger? What really stands out to you from this whole idea of spiritual unfolding and finding the divine within that mystery? Something to ponder.